Hello, World Economic News for Friday, last of the week, before the week end. It's quite a nice one, I'll read this because it explains it probably better and quicker than I can. Of the 53 central banks in Bloomberg's database, 31 have negative real interest rates, the red dots in the chart. In the US, the Fed funds rate remains at all-time lows of 0.2%, while inflation, as measured by the Consumer Price Index, is running at 2.7%, leaving a real rate of minus 2.5%. The ECB, which itself sets policy for 17 countries and just raised rates by a quarter point, has real rate of minus 1.5. That's the rate with inflation adjustment. At the extreme and off this chart is Venezuela's rate of 16.2%, is far behind its roaring inflation rate of 28%, leaving real rates at minus 12% plus, off the charts. Okay, so have we got that for interest rates? Interest rates at 0, let's say. If inflation rate is 5, then by the end of the year you've lost 5% on your money. If interest rate is at 5% and inflation is at, say, 0, then at the end of the year you've got 5% more buying power on that money. Good. So you can see the people dotted on this chart. But look, of the 53 central banks, 31 have negative real interest rates, and you can see them, the ECB, US and UK. And as they push out across there along the bottom, annual inflation, that obviously has to be balanced by the central bank policy rate. You can see China are just positive, but you want to keep it very, very much positive if you want to crush inflation, apparently. But as we heard yesterday, Michael Pettis in China, that might not always pertain. But that's quite an interesting sort of thing. It is really the central banks trying to force people into doing more borrowing. Move on. Borrowing boom. This is from the Wall Street Journal. Borrowing boom. Loan demand is growing more in emerging markets than in the US, Europe or Japan. That one is, below that is corporate borrowing or lending. Emergency markets corporate are doing more, increasing their borrowing than the Fed says that they are. Western Europe is, and Japan even less. And on the consumer side, you can see from the bottom, the blue dots, Japan, Europe and the United States not increasing their demand for borrowing at all. That's on the consumer side. But the consumers of emerging markets are borrowing lots more, and the global bank lending to the private sector emerging in green, going uppity up, and US, Europe and Japan in aggregate a bit flaccid. Third link is managing the Eurozone's fragility, and it's the picture that really paints this 1,000 words. That's some Spanish chap in the middle of the mire, in the quicksand or whatever, it's marsh or whatever it's meant to be, and the UK people can carry their debt much more easily. This is what the whole Martin Wolf article is about. I'll read the first paragraph. Why is Spain paying higher interest rates on its government debt than the UK? The article obviously goes on to answer that question. The answer to this question is illuminating. Membership of a currency union makes a country fiscally fragile. This is inherent in the construction. Members are neither sovereign states nor components of a federation. The big challenge for the Eurozone is to resolve this contradiction, or for Germany to resolve this contradiction, by either getting all in or getting all out. A more Financial Times comment, opinion. This is George Magnus, works for the wily old dog, either Credit Suisse or UBS, one of those Swiss outfits. China risks credit-fueled Minsky moment. China is widely seen as a beacon of sustained economic expansion and financial stability, in contrast to a troubled Western world. However, it is worth asking whether China's investment-intensive growth model and developments in credit and inflation are pushing it towards its own version of a Minsky moment. Named after the US economist who warned that the process of leverage always culminates in instability. As Western countries discovered in 2008, this is the point at which policy or other endogenous shocks lead to financial instability and falls in asset prices. Investment and economic growth all fall. Could China be flirting with a similar outcome? Minsky moment normally follows after the Minsky idea that when everything's calm for so long, people take on too much debt because they don't perceive really enough risk, and start taking out Ponzi debt, which is just you take out a quick debt knowing that whatever you buy will go up enough in price that you'll just be able to pay it back and make money on it. Not investing at all. Minsky, dangerous. It's not his fault. Comment opinion again from the Financial Times. Portugal delays pain it knows is inevitable. An interesting enough article on Portugal, the latest of the pig bailouts. Tuesday's Portuguese rescue deal is being sold as a way to buy time. The €78 billion rescue package agreed with the European Union and the International Money Fund is welcomed because Portugal will gain a few more years to delay fiscal adjustment. But the victory will be short-lived, for fiscal problems alone are not what ails Portugal's economy. It is actually worth reading that article. It's good. And incidentally, on these FT articles, I subscribe to FT, but I only get 20 free per month. But if you see something like that for me, I want to read, but don't want to take it off my 20, you've got to copy and paste the title of it into a Google search or something like that, and then take it off the search engine. And if you go that way, it doesn't take it off your 20, if you're interested. Telegraph Co. UK. UK is not Portugal, but it could become so. For the UK, there could scarcely be a more salutary warning of the dangers of runaway public debt than the sight of Portugal joining Greece and Ireland in the prison of economic enslavement to the faithless bureaucrats of Europe and the International Monetary Fund. Out of it we get, but what makes Britain particularly vulnerable to financial crisis is the size of its financial sector. This is Britain's financial sector, which has liabilities that are a multiple of several times GDP. In this regard, the UK is very much an outlier compared to other major advanced economies, including the US and Japan. In fact, it's got much more in common with Ireland or even tiny Iceland. In a way, it's obviously correct, but you wonder, well, is banking so special that if it falls over, it absolutely must be paid for by the taxpayer? Britain dealt with its banking crisis far more effectively than either, it's Ireland or Iceland. Yet the risk of the banking sector's vast liabilities shifting onto the public balance sheet in the same way as they have for Ireland is still high. It is indeed. Because this ain't over yet, kids. It wouldn't take much to shatter international confidence in the UK's ability to repay its debts. In other words, it soon falls onto the sovereign again, like it did last time, and then the sovereign has to pay more to get away its gilts, its bonds. As a result, there is a double risk to the UK of sovereign and financial market contagion, taking public, household, corporate and financial sector liabilities in aggregate. The UK is far more highly indebted than almost anywhere else. Absolutely more indebted than anywhere else I know, anyway. Bit of a shift. Oil prices may bring us all to our knees, says Emirates president. This is Emirates airline. And you can imagine how they're hurting with higher prices. And I've just highlighted in yellow Emirates Airlines to add fuel surcharge to all airfares. They've got to pass it on or go out of business. So the public has to pay it, naturally. Finish with Foreign Policy magazine, obviously the internet version. Can the world feed 10 billion people, with a great big question mark? With an exploding global population and Africa's numbers set to triple, the world's experts are falling over themselves arguing how to feed the masses. Why do they have it so wrong? By Raj Patel. Good article. Finishes with Nobel laureate Amartya Sen has famously argued that there are few policies better placed to improve individual, family and community lives and lower fertility rates than education, particularly the education of women and girls. The prophecies presented to us by demographers vary widely. Change the assumptions and you end up with a world of between 8 to 15 billion people. No matter what the future holds, though, it is clear that a world in which everyone gets to eat depends on women's empowerment. And rather than treating that fact as something irrelevant to feeding the world, agroecology puts it right in the middle, where it should be. A great deal of past agricultural policy has been designed either economically to bomb villages in order to save them, or to administer a technological quick fix in order to postpone politics. Collier wants to get rid of peasants. New fads want to keep them, but keep them knee-deep in chemicals. Yet if we are serious about feeding the hungry in Malawi or anywhere else, we need to recognize that the majority of the hungry are women, and that we need more public, not private spending on these least able to command rural resources, because when it comes to growing food, those who tend the land are anything but fools. They are capital. Capital, good capital, worth investing in and keeping, and then investing more in. Got to help people to help themselves, or at least keep those bloody Monsanto bastards out of it. See ya. Bye.